This is the story of a family in which everyone has to live according to the timetable. The husband is as straight as his wife is psycho. Now you will get to know how psycho she was, and to what extent she could go by watching today's story. We see a family in which there is a couple and their 2 children. The husband is named Don. In Don's house, his wife Mona always ruled. She had made laws for everything, which meant timing for each task, and Don also had to do what Mona said. Once Mona does the planning, that's it, and then it will be the same as she planned. Don had been tolerating all this for years. Mona's behavior with her children was also the same. She believed that her children always have to win in everything, they can't even think of losing. Because of all this, Don always used to be worried, but he knew that he could not speak in front of his wife and did not have the courage to do anything. When he used to try to get close to Mona, there was a time for him too. Mona often says to Don that it will be the same as she said and planned. Don used to spend most of his time in his shop. It was his furniture shop. Mona ruled the house because Mona's dad had given her the money for this shop. Don just works as an employee in the shop, and the real owner was Mona. But his wife never argued that she was the owner. That's why everyone used to think that Don was the owner of the shop. One day, Don puts an ad outside his shop saying that he needs an employee. A girl came to his shop named Dusty. She looks beautiful. When Don saw her for the first time, he fell in love with her. He had kept Dusty at work, but something else was going on in his mind. He was thinking of making a relationship with Dusty. While Don's friend came and talked about Dusty, he says, "This girl is so beautiful." Don says, "What are you talking about?" Hearing this, his friend says, "We have to do something to refresh our minds. We work all day and listen to our wives. If you keep Dusty at work here, we both will have fun on this pretext, and we will be able to work well." After this, we see a man beating someone. That's when he hears Don's interview on TV, where he is talking about his family and house. This man was actually a gang leader who used to rob rich people. Now that gang leader, after listening to the interview, puts all his men behind Don. He follows Don and his family like this, but Don doesn't even know about it. He used to spend time with his family and shop, and he doesn't know anything about this. In fact, he started paying more attention to Dusty and has a different relationship with her. Dusty also came to know that Don liked her. Mona tries to get close to Don, but he starts living happily with Dusty. That's why he refuses Mona. Everything was going according to plan. One day, there is a party at Don's house, and Dusty also comes there. She tells me the bad news that she is pregnant. Hearing this, Don was shocked. He says to Dusty to do something, get an operation and finish all this. But Dusty says, "No, I want to keep this baby." After knowing all this, Don knows that slowly his problems are going to increase, so he goes to his friend. After hearing all this, his friend says, "Do one thing and give money to Dusty. Look, I feel like she doesn't want to listen to you, so understand that she will blackmail you in the future. I think Dusty is a good character girl." There, we see Dusty going somewhere. She goes to a man, and he was the same man who was beating someone a while ago and who had followed Don after listening to his interview. So here we come to know that Dusty was also a part of this gang. The leader of the gang always targets a rich man after it. He sends Dusty to him, and then all of them used to fool that man and rob him, but this time the matter was different. Dusty also started liking Don. The next day, when Dusty goes to work, Don gives her $13,000 and says, "Look, I am a man with kids, so leave me alone." Hearing this, Dusty starts crying and says, "What do you think of me? Am I a beggar or a girl that you are giving me greed for money? I wanted to stay with you, but if you want all this, then fine, I will go." She takes the money and leaves. When Dusty comes to the gang leader, she gives him the money. Seeing this, he got angry and said, "Why did you bring so little money?" He scolds her and says she will have to take $25,000 from that man soon. So now Dusty calls Don again and asks him for more money. Hearing this, Don's problem started increasing day by day because Don didn't have that much money, so now he thinks that he should tell everything to his wife, Mona. But he is also scared because he doesn't know what Mona would do. Still, he tells everything to his wife. Hearing all this, she looks peaceful at first, and then sits on the bed, taking an album. Looking at her, it felt like she didn't care about anything. That's why Don was scared of Mona. Anyway, she says and asks Don, "Do you still love that girl?" Don says no. "Not at all. I only love you. I just want to live with you and my kids." Mona shows her true self and says a lot of things. She says, "Don't ever forget that whatever you are today, it's all because of me. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had this luxurious house and money." Mona says, "Okay, I have an idea. Call that girl and ask her what she wants." Don calls her and asks, "Dice?" She says she wants $20,000 more. After this, Don hangs up the call. Mona tells Don, "Look, this girl will never leave you. That's why you have two options. Either kill her, or if you can't do anything, then divorce me. After that, you won't have anything and won't be able to meet your kids." Hearing this, Don was in a dilemma because he didn't want to kill anyone. Mona keeps troubling him. What will he do one day? She goes to his office and gives him medicine. She says, "Take this and give it to Dusty," because she knew that she was going to get money from Don tonight. But Don was scared of this now. Anyway, he takes the medicine and goes to meet Dusty. He mixes it in a drink and gives it to her. As Dusty drinks the drink, she starts feeling dizzy and becomes unconscious. Meanwhile, Mona comes and says, "Pick her up, Don, and take her to our house." Don was listening to Mona and took her home, but she was still conscious. Don was scared of what his wife was going to do with Dusty. Anyway, now Mona tells Don to go and get the hammer. When Don brings it, Mona asks him to hit Dusty and make her unconscious. Hearing this, Don says, "No, I can't do that." She says, "You will have to do this after all. You were in an affair with her," but Don can't do that. Now Mona takes the hammer and hits Dusty's head. She was already dead, but still, Mona was not satisfied. She picks up Dusty's body, brings it to the garage, and shatters her body into pieces. Wasn't Mona a psycho? She had divided his body into thousands of pieces. After seeing all this, Don was feeling nauseous because this scene was horrific for him. He couldn't even imagine that his wife could go this far. Now that the time passes like this, there is a gang leader who is worried about Dusty because she has not come to meet her for many days and has not called her. On the other hand, Don, who was at his house, sees a gang leader outside talking to his son. Don runs outside, but by then, the gang leader has left. But he holds a note in Don's son's hand, in which it is written that he wants to meet him, and that he wants to talk about Dusty. Knowing all this, Don gets scared, but he knows that he will have to meet the gang leader. He would not leave him like this, so now he goes to the club at night to meet the gang leader. He asks him about Dusty, but Don lies and says she came to take money from me that night. I had given him money. After that, I don't know where she went. Hearing this, the gang leader and his companion start talking badly about Dusty. He says she was such a clever girl. She showed her true form as she got the money. The gang leader says, "Don, Dusty ran away with the money. Now you will have to give us money." After hearing all this, Don now tells his wife, and she says, "I told you that these people are ghosts of kicks. They will not listen to such things. You keep watching what I am going to do. I know where Dusty's dead body is. Now I will go to the gang's house and keep Dusty's body there. In this way, he will be trapped in the accusation of her murder, and all of us will be free from it." Now they do the same. Mona goes to the gang's house and fills the pieces of Dusty's dead body in the fridge. When Mona was doing this, a gang leader's partner came here with a girl. The gang leader's partner started doubting that there was someone. Now Mona also came to know that if he came to know about her, then he would catch her. That's why she picks up the knife from his kitchen and attacks the leader's partner from behind. After it, she left, but the leader's partner was still alive and called his leader about what happened here. On the other side, Mona comes out and tells the police that something is going on in the gang's leader's house. Now the police also left from there. After a while, the gang's leader comes to his house. There, he finds his partner's dead body, whom Mona had killed, and he becomes upset. As he opens the fridge to drink water, he finds Dusty's dead body, which was cut and kept in pieces. The gang's leader does not understand what to do. Meanwhile, the police also came outside his house, telling him to come out. The gang's leader's partner did not want to go out. That's why he started firing, because he knew that if he went out, the police would catch him, and then the police shot him. Now the gang's leader hides from a short distance and leaves the house. Now that we see Don upset with all this, one day he asks his wife Mona, How did you do all this? You cut Dusty into pieces so easily while doing all this. Didn't your heart shake hearing all this? Mona starts behaving strangely and says like crazy that I am fine. Never ask me such a question again. And now if you ask me this question, then I will do the same to you, as I did to Dusty. Now Don understood that he couldn't leave Mona, even if he wanted to. He had to spend his whole life with his psycho wife. If he leaves her, he will also be killed. The next day, the police come to Don's house and say that they have caught the killers of Dusty, but the gang's leader is still missing. She was your employee and we have heard that she used to come to your shop at night. Hearing this, Don gets scared and says, yes, I had an affair with her. Please do not tell anything to my wife about this. Then Mona comes, who was holding the neighbor's dog because it had gone inside her house. Mona returns the dog to its owner and says that if he comes to our house again, then I will cut it into pieces. Hearing this, everyone started laughing. One day it was Don's daughter's party, and everyone was having a lot of fun. When Don goes inside and sees the fridge, he finds that there is the corpse of his neighbor's dog, which Mona killed, which means she was not lying that day. She had really cut the dog into pieces. Seeing this, Don gets upset. There was a game going on outside the party, but Mona's son was losing again and again. Now the boy from whom he was losing, Mona insults his mom and dad a lot. Don was also seeing all this. Now his daughter takes the game stick from her brother and does the same as Mona wanted. Don fears that Mona will make his daughter like her and that she will turn his innocent boy into a maniac. Don makes a plan because now he doesn't want to live with Mona. He moves inside and takes out all the electricity wires so that there will be a short circuit if someone turns the light on. Later, he turns on the gas cylinder so that there will be fire because of turning the light on and a huge blast because of the gas. He comes out. He calls Mona and asks her to bring him something to eat. Mona moves inside and Don comes out because he knows there will be a blast now. As Mona presses the light button, there is a huge blast. Mona died in a way as Don planned. Time passes and we see Don living a great life in a palace with his kids. After his wife died, he became wealthy and received insurance money. They were all happy because now they don't have to follow any timetable. Don has liberated the children's lives as well as his own. He was driving with his children. Meanwhile, we see the gang's leader. He chases him on his bike because he has discovered everything. Dusty was ended by Don and his wife. That's why he shoots at Don's car. Hearing the voice, it appears that he has terminated Don, but this is not shown. This was the story of a psycho wife who was crazy, but she also loved Don. That's why she used to threaten him by saying she'd end him if he left her. Yet Mona was mistaken someplace because a guy cannot spend a life like the one Mona gave to Don. Don also did wrong to Mona by ending her, but in the end, he also lost his life. That is why the phrase, "What you sow, so shall you reap," is employed. Here ends the story of this film.